Hey, hunting family, you are tuning into the Tracks and Tackle podcast, brought to you by Menser Outdoors.
Hey there, hunting family. We're back with another exciting episode of Tracks and Tackle. The first week of deer season is in the books, and we've got some stories to share about how it's gone for us so far. From the highs to the challenges and everything in between, whether you've already tagged out or whether you're still chasing that big buck like I am, we're sure you'll be able to relate to the adventures we've had. But before we dive in, I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's show, Interstate Garage Doors. Whether you're upgrading your garage door or in need of a repair, or if you're just looking for a reliable team to handle your installation, Interstate has you covered. Don't forget to use promo code Tracks and Tackle when you reach out to them. We'll include a link in the description for you to connect with Interstate directly. In today's episode, we're diving into the post-rut playbook to help you make the most of late season. We'll share practical tips for adapting your hunting strategies as the season winds down, discuss field-to-table essentials to ensure your harvest is processed and stored the right way. And we're going to talk about balancing time in the woods with family traditions during the holidays. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us for this week's show. It's packed with stories, strategies, and a whole lot of passion for the outdoors. Let's get started. Hey folks, welcome back to Tracks and Tackle. Just got your favorite two hunters and outdoorsmen checking in with you here today. I'm Ron Menser, got Brady Menser from the Menser Outdoors team, and we are ready to talk first week of rifle season. It's been a packed full week. It seems like it's been longer than that, but it's only been 1 week since the rifle opener, and it's time to check in. So how you doing, Brady?
Doing great, man. Glad to be in under a warm shelter here. It's nice. Finally got my feet thawed out, but we got after it opening day. We had some success, and we got plenty of stories that we're going to share here. And I know, as you just said, it feels like it's been longer. To me, like, I think we talked about a little bit. The anticipation builds up for the season to get here, whether archery included. But we're pumped, and then it's here, and we blink and it's gone. So, we got another week, 2 weeks left maybe, and then deer season's basically over with the exception of late season. So we're just trying to get out as much as we can in that time and, enjoy the time in the outdoors and with each other.
Right on, right on. And
it's just a solo episode. So let me tell you about that time. I was at hunting camp, holding the fort down. Got there by myself. Don't recommend. Number one, it's always good to have a hunting buddy, as we talk about. But I got there. It was 26 degrees in camp, and I got there at 7 o'clock. So by the time I got a good fire going, I was shivering, hugging it basically. By the time I got this fire going, it was time to go to bed. And I was planning on going hunting the whole time and let the fire go out. So ultimately, it wasn't worth it in the grand scheme. Like, it was a lose-lose. And I ended up going out. I had a good outing. I saw a few deer, but it's just not the same when you don't have a hunting buddy. So this year when we went up, it was really nice because Ron and Brock got up there early. So they had that fire started, and it was mid-morning, late morning. So we were able to go into a little bit of a warmer cabin.
Hey, looks like we got Buck joining us this morning. I popped out there, Brady.
Darn internet. What's going on, Buck?
How are you guys this morning?
Pretty good. Ready to talk some deer stories.
I hope you got some, because I don't have many.
Yeah.
Well, I was starting to say, today's episode we're gonna touch on, late season strategies. We'll talk a little bit about how we all process our own meat once we harvest, and some tips on those things. And then we're going to talk. We'll wrap the show by talking about balancing certainly work life, but family and hunting during the holidays. So Brady took over, and Brady, you were just sharing a little bit about the how things are going, I guess.
I was just giving everyone a story about the importance of a hunting buddy. Just getting to camp whenever you're there by yourself and it's cold and you're lonely, but it's important to have someone get there before you because they can heat it up, get the fire going.
Yeah, not all of us hunt with those type of conditions, but for us, certainly it helps to get somebody to get a fire going in camp. So how are you doing, Buck?
I'm here, man. You're talking about processing. I'm gonna have to jump off here in a minute and check a smoker. Uh, I've been up since 4 this morning with stuff on the smoker, and
Right on.
we were processing all week this week and all day yesterday. We got some snack sticks mixed up and have some stuff in the smoker here last night and this morning. We'll spend most of this week smoking what we've prepped all week.
Yeah, that sounds like a good time. Sounds like a guy that doesn't have any stories.
Well, they weren't all my deer.
Oh, that doesn't
Um,
that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Well,
yeah,
thanks
they
for
weren't.
joining, man. Like Brady was saying, it's better when you have a hunting buddy. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Most of my hunting buddies live in here with me and can't drive, so you know I got to hunt with them.
That's good though.
you
You
got a
got them.
captive audience.
You got them
They're
trained
not.
on the ground.
They're not going to the cabin early and getting the fire started for me though, Brady. I gotta, they arrive when I arrive, so
Yeah,
they're not out pre gaming for anything.
a few years yet, man. You'll get made.
Yep, yep.
So Brady, I don't know the story because, like I said, my internet cut out, so I didn't catch everything you were saying. But I know it was like incredibly frigid on opening day.
But yeah, it was really cold. This was my first year up there, Western Pennsylvania mountain grounds. They weren't even calling for snow, but it's my first year out there with snow on the ground. Is the biggest thing for us is getting up the, dirt road driveway to get to the peak. Is are we going to make it up? But it's more important, like, are you going to make it down? Like, you don't want to, wreck your $50,000 truck and really put yourself in a hole. So we've always exercised caution around the weather, and that's why we basically only hunt up there rifle opener. Besides opener, like most of the time it's getting colder and there's more likelihood of a snow squall rolling through. So yeah, out of nowhere, snowstorm popped up. We only got maybe like an inch, but we were just sitting there Friday night by the fire, just looking at it come down, and we're like, "This is cool. Like, where'd this come from?" But was really cold. We were hugging that fire, and yeah, just temperatures really dropped overnight. I don't know. Do you guys have snow down up in Potter County?
There's a lot of snow in Potter County, but we weren't up there for opener.
Oh, gotcha.
We
You guys.
hunted. We hunted at home, so yeah, we didn't get to hunt any snow. Seeing all the pictures up there, I was kind of jonesing to be up there, but my junior hunting buddies, they're not into the big woods hunting. They like hunting at home.
Yeah, yeah. But me and Ron, so we both went up and we hunt towards the peak and got up early, got out there. I really don't mind what the walk up. Like you walk up, it's cold, you're moving, you kind of warm up, and then it's whenever I sit down and put all my layers on. It's probably an hour after that where I start to really feel the effects of the elements. But I
Right.
I really wasn't too cold. Now, Buck, I know that you have one, but I got an IWAM suit, and that did pretty darn good for me.
Yeah, I didn't even break mine out. It wasn't cold enough for me to get that out yet.
Yeah,
Um, Emily definitely had hers out though. She was, she first 3 days she said all day. Her and Erica went in the blind and they they said all day.
yeah. I with me, I bundle up in it. I'll admit, like I was wearing it 45 degrees in the spring with like if the wind was blowing. Man, I don't like being cold. That's my thing. But it did its trick. It kept me in the woods longer, and led to more opportunities for myself too. The only thing that I found, it's probably my boots. I have some old like Under Armour boots that I got for Christmas maybe like 8 years ago. So probably time to upgrade, or I don't know what you guys do with all the walking. Your feet probably sweat, whether you put on a different layer of socks or switch out. But that's something that I need to work on too, because I everything else was warm. It's got that nice hand warmer you can put your hands in, with you throw them a little bit Mr. Heaters or those
Right.
hand warmers in too, and you're nice and toasty. But as long as my head, hands, and feet are warm, I'm good to be out all day.
Right.
I think it makes a difference whenever you're walking versus when you're stationary, because when you're talking about like your boot choice, because I got multiple pair of boots that I use, and it depends on the type of hunting I'm doing. Whether if I'm stationary, I've got some good boots that are good for sub-zero temperatures. But then I also have boots that if I'm walking, they breathe, because my feet are going to get hot.
But yeah, for me, that's all I'm figuring out. But yeah, opening day stories. I have a few. I made it to my spot. Archery season, I was seeing deer pretty consistently there. It seems like it's a crossing point. Archery, I had issues whether there's a bench a little bit below and then basically the peak of the ridge they walk. So I had to pick my poison and commit. And there was sits that around 11 o'clock I would relocate because I saw a deer there, and then I'd be kicking myself because I saw it where I just had my stand. So the whole time I'm just wishing that I had my gun. Well, got my gun now. I had them patterned at around 7, 8 o'clock, but I was sitting there, nothing came through, but I'm like, I know some point they're going to be coming through here. But ultimately too, I'm thinking, well, it's rifle. There's more people out. Maybe they switched up their patterns, but around 9 o'clock, here comes the herd. It's around 7 to 9 does. I was able to get myself positioned, get ready, and my suit and I was in my tree stand. It is a little bit mobility to adjust, because if normally I'm hunting on the ground, I'm able to use my knee to prop my gun on, but I was able to stand up and prop my gun against a tree and let the gun crack on a really accurate shot. And it's really nice, especially the terrain that we hunt, whenever you squeeze that trigger and you see legs in the air. So I knew I didn't have to worry about tracking. I had one on the ground. I threw the gun on a few of the other ones, but they were running away. I didn't want to rush a shot. So had one on the ground. I'm pumped. I'm like sitting in my stand. I do a little bit of recording, and I'm just like waiting because I'm like, well, I'm up in the stand. Like I know it's down. I know where it's at. Maybe I can see about getting another one. So I'm just waiting there. I'm like, well, if I get cold, I know I got work to do. So about half hour from there, this small rack buck just crests that ridge, that other point that I said I wanted to cover. And he had eyes on me right away. So I tried to get my gun adjusted from whenever he wasn't looking at me. But ultimately, he knew something wasn't right, and he turned around. And then there was my excitement on that. I'm like, man, like how awesome would that have been to like double up, like especially this early. I don't have to sit out in this crap. I can go in, be
It helps
warm.
you keep you warm too whenever you're seeing deer.
Yeah, I can start the party, break out the fuyu, and basically go home and just be happy, and even maybe go be your cameraman, Ron. But that was basically my hunt. The second deer came in the afternoon that I cracked and laid down, and you can get into it. It's always good to have a dragon buddy. So you had one down, and just about the time when I was going to come help you was when this deer came by. So basically, I texted you, you're on your own. But
Yeah, I mean, basically.
awesome opening day. That was my tails. Second day, I saw a few deer, but didn't have any opportunities on them. But deer were moving in the snow, like the colder weather. They were moving.
Yeah, I'd say like temps were right, situation was right, and the deer were moving. You had seen, I mean, you were doing pretty good in your spot that you had located, that sort of crossing pattern where you were seeing deer all archery, you
Yeah.
know. So you had them patterned and were positioned right. And I would say, yeah, with the snow on the ground, they're just like a deer, just like us when we were kids. That first significant snow of the year. They're out playing in it and running around, and um, Yeah, I don't know if, being my cameraman would have been good or not. You did a really good job at getting some good footage, for your hunt. For me, I was doing some ground hunting because, I'd switched locations from my archery season. I wasn't seeing as many deer in the locations, like, nothing was coming through at daylight, so, I went to the same spot where, I sat last year in rifle, and I sat on the ground. I got kinda nice cover. I can sort of lean back against a nice mature tree. There's a downed log right next to it, so I got an armrest, and it sort of insulates me from the wind, and it keeps me hidden. I'm sort of tucked in there, but I've got to commit. You can't look down because it's straight down the mountain. I either have to look to the right on the ridge or I have to look to the left on the ridge. But, we know in that terrain where the deer are traveling, like in the morning, they're coming from one way, and in the evening, they're coming back, from the other way. So it's, we got some funny stories where, I'm looking one way and I've got deer behind me. Brady has a trail camera set up close to that spot. And there's a little yearling that came up and was, looking at the camera and messing with it. I mean, all you saw were ears in the camera and stuff, and you can see like me in the distance in the background, my orange, and I certainly wasn't looking that way, so they were deer all around me, but I didn't see a ton of deer. And then we do try to capture this and self film, self record, but the camera that I had, the Tacticam on my gun, the battery died. Like, so the first deer that came through to me, I had 3 doe come up in the morning, probably like 8:30, 9 o'clock time frame. And, I threw the gun up, turned the cameras on, tried to record, and my Tacticam battery did not. I mean, the battery is dead. It was just cold temps killed the battery. So there wasn't any good shooting footage from me. But all in all, I saw a couple in the morning. I had missed a shot at a doe and in the morning when I saw those, but then in the afternoon we had some local guys doing some driving, and that got the deer moving, and had some success. But one of the doe that I shot didn't park in the spot where I shot it, and she went. I mean, literally with the snow, it just that hill becomes a sledding ground unless the deer gets caught on a tree. And it was about 200 yards before that deer got caught on a tree. So I had to hike down to the bottom of the mountain, and then I had to determine whether I was going to drag that deer up, whether I was going to quarter the deer out, try to carry it out. Really wished I had a hunting buddy, like my friend here says. When his deer was down, someone came out and helped him drag it up and get it to the ridge, and so he could go hunting again. But I don't know. I was probably around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2:30, when I got to the deer at the base of the mountain, and it was after dark until we got up to the top with it. So I was shot. It
To
just
say the
wasn't a.
least.
Yeah, I say it every year, like, "I'm never again will I do this again." So, like, I know how I felt, but Brady saw how bad I was. It was hard in our video that we rolled out on the YouTube channel to really document how rough of shape I was in, because there was no recording going on. I
Yeah,
mean,
we were both. Yeah,
I was trying to just get home with the meat. So,
yeah, Buck.
um
He looked like he saw the Grim Reaper. He was just pale, like out of breath. He was complaining about his calf swelling, and you would have thought you needed to call an airlift to get him out of there. The way he was at, he was getting like grumpy. Like he was like, if that big buck could come, hell, I don't care. He can walk today. Like basically, almost like he wanted to leave his gun behind. Like he didn't care about anything. He just wanted to get back to camp. But you know, not going anywhere till he got a drink. I offered him some Mountain Dew. He's like, I'm gonna throw up if I have one sip of that. It was a sight to see. I wish I wasn't tired, so I could have captured some of that on film. But
Nothing will remind you how out of shape you are like dragging a deer.
oh yeah,
yeah.
That is for 100% certain. Nothing will tell you you're out of shape like dragging that deer.
Yeah, I think you can be in the most tip top shape, like any of our listeners or viewers out there. Yeah, I'm certainly a lot of you guys are in better shape than I am. But if you had to get that deer out of where that deer went, I mean, you probably have been feeling the same, it's very similar to how I was feeling when I came out of there because it was just hell. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, we got out.
Yep.
I was just gonna say, like for me, like I probably had a 50-yard drag, so a quarter of what you had, and it was tough for me to get it to the peak. And then with two of them, I was basically, I don't know, I think we measured, I'm like 500 yards out from you, so I would
Right.
basically throw my backpack on, carry my gun, drag one 50 yards, drop both of that. I'd go back, grab my other gear bag, drag the other one 100 yards. I was basically playing leapfrog with these, like almost just catching my breath on the walk back. It's like doing wind sprints in football. Like, yeah, you get your little break, but you got to go again. Like, job's not done. But yeah, especially just having to do it solo. So, you on the other hand, you have 200, 250 yards to do that all solo. Probably a little bit steeper incline the further it goes down. So,
It was all rock, and with the snow on top of the rocks, I mean, it was just slick. There was nowhere to get your footing because I quartered the deer up. I tried to put it on my back and just pack it out, but you couldn't because I mean, even if you weren't carrying anything, just carrying your gun and trying to walk uphill, there's nowhere to put your foot, and there's a lot of slipping and falling. So at the end of the day, we got it out, and I said never again till I got to the top of the hill. That really nice shooter buck that we've been watching all year. I told Brady and Lon, I said that deer could walk out and stick its tongue out at me right now, and I think I wouldn't shoot it because I don't feel like
that's
dragging it. So, but it was good. It was a good experience, and we got a lot of that on film, and we tell the story in our latest YouTube video, which seems to be getting some traction. So that's nice as well. So, Buck, I
Well,
saw good.
that's the one positive thing about my hunting buddy, my current hunting buddy. She doesn't like to get too far from the truck. So the one that I did shoot on the second day, it died on the driveway. I backed the
Very
truck up
nice.
to it. I backed the truck up to it, and she helped me throw it on the truck. So yeah,
awesome.
I don't have any I'm dying dragging stories. My youngest daughter shot one with my wife, and I heard her dragging it out of the mountain. So like she's like running with this deer while she's dragging it out, to be young again. You know.
That might have been the highlight of my actually, my weekend was seeing that picture that you sent, your daughter, with her deer, because it's all about like seeing them be successful. For me, anyway, that really got me going. I was like, "Come on, let's go."
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty good one. That was a pretty special one for her and my wife. She's she's killed a
Hmm.
deer. You know, that's the first one she's killed unassisted. You know, she's shot one that was already wounded and it wasn't motoring along too good kind of thing, or
Yeah,
you know, just needed put down. But that was the first live on the feet, non-assisted. You know, she put the time in and shot it and drug it out herself. So that was pretty special. I know my wife. I asked her. I said, "Is all the aggravation you've been going through now for the last week getting her ready worth it?" And she's like, "Every last minute of it." So
yeah,
Can't beat it.
yeah,
love it.
yeah, for sure. I unfortunately my buddy didn't get her shot this year because she couldn't find him in the scope, and that's why Dad took over, and that's why I got one this time because the gig was
It,
kind of up and she couldn't find it, and I was like, well, we're not getting anything if it don't happen now. So
instinct kicked in.
yeah, well, I waited as long as I could, and she was having trouble finding them, and I had it in the scope, and
It
I was
happens.
watching.
Yeah.
There was five of them, and they were coming in, and I was watching them and watching them and watching them, and I was watching her, trying to watch her and watch the deer, and um, you know, they were with. I could have shot them with a bow, but unfortunately, they got in that close, and with two of us in a tree stand, and she was moving around trying to find it. Um, the one that I shot looked right up the tree and stomped her foot one time, and I knew it was over. And I looked down at my daughter, and she was still moving, trying
Yep.
to find him. I said, "That one stomp's it," and I pulled the
Sealed
trigger,
its
and it
fate.
fell. Yeah, I pulled the trigger, and it fell down on the driveway. So uh, the first thing she
I'll
said to me was, Dad, I almost had it.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's always next.
we almost didn't have nothing. So is what we almost had.
I think back to like whenever I was, I was I wasn't a big kid, I was kind of a, skinny kid. And, you know, when it's cold out and you're hunting and stuff, you got like a ton of heavy jackets and a bunch of layers and stuff. And I remember it being tough to find deer in the scope, when you're
And
when you're younger.
when you're young, it's an acquired skill,
Hmm.
so to speak. Just locating them in general, find them in the scope, and making sure your scope's turned down so you're not trying to find a deer in the woods on 9 power. And it's and everybody's different. I mean, I can't tell you how to do it because the way you like to do it's different probably than the way I do it and the way would Brady would do it. So there's no right or wrong way to do it.
Yeah, I still
Yeah.
have times where I throw my gun up and say where that deer's at. I don't see the deer, but I see a tree that I recognize, and then I'm like, all right, I need to move a little bit over this way, and there it is. But talking about this reminds me of when I was a kid. Um, yeah, I had a few moments where it's tough to find a scope. I think that's a common thing, but my biggest thing was I didn't want to let my dad down. Hunt with my dad. So a lot of times our opportunity would come, and I didn't want to mess up. But as I learn and get older, like these mistakes are like stories, and it's really no big deal. It's just
Oh,
part
we
of.
all have plenty of them.
Yeah, I still
Mistakes
make
are
them
like
all the time.
stories. I like that.
Yep,
So
we all have plenty of them.
a few deer early on, like just the pressure. I folded. I just gave him the gun. But
Been there. I've been there. My boy did that one time too. We were driving for deer, and a whole bunch came out. They actually walked back into the drive. They weren't even the deer we were driving.
hmm,
Another group of people had bumped these deer, and they come across the field the wrong way. And there was 14 or 15 deer, and Mason handed me the gun, and he's like, "Here, you got to shoot, Dad. There's too many. I don't even know where to start."
Hmm.
You know?
Well, that's trust.
He, however, is not that way anymore.
great.
If 14 deer come across the field now, we're gonna have problems.
That's awesome. Does he carry two clips? We have some guys in
Uh,
our group that are like they're ready to mow them all down.
well, I'm gonna tell you what. He shoots a 257, and we have a 243, and they use the same magazines. And I think there's like 7 or 8 total mags here that fit different guns, and I gotta keep it under control. And I have to mark them because if not, he'll have every one of them in his pocket just in case. You never know.
Like a Boy Scout, man. You got to be
Yeah,
prepared.
yeah,
Always prepared.
yeah. You got to be
Hey,
prepared. You never know how it's gonna go.
yeah, that's it. I mean, we've gotten into some situations when you're farm hunting and you're driving and stuff, and you need that second clip. I've never really had that happen. Probably maybe only once stand hunting. Where I needed a little more shells than what I had with me. But yeah, those situations you want to be prepared for them when you have them, but they come far and few in between.
Yep. So hey, I know we wanted to touch on basically ways to survive these colder temperatures. We're getting into mid-December now, so temps are dropping, which is normal. I'm happy that's getting cold. We talked about the snow at camp, so just touching on strategies that you guys have to stay warm out there. For me, it came down to gear. Previously, before I had the IWAM suit, I would, pack light, hike. I would get hot, and then I'd throw on sweatpants. I'd throw on different legs on and just my jacket and all sorts, and just kind of bundle myself up as I started to get cold layer by layer. Ron, I know you got that new jacket, that live up to expectations. And what other tricks do you have to stay warm?
Yeah, I would say gear is a big thing. I like I've shared with you earlier. I was talking to an old friend yesterday, and he's wanting to get into hunting and stuff, and he asked me the question, "Is it too late to like I got a license? Is it too late to go out?" I said, "So no, it's not too late. You're still in season." And let me see, Buck, are you with us?
Yeah, man.
All right, yeah,
I
looked
don't know
like you
what
froze
happened.
up on us for a minute, but
Yeah, I might have froze up on you.
so anyway, my buddy was telling me, he was asking the question like, are the deer harder to hunt this time of year? And so I thought that was really a good question because it's just like us, we go through 4 seasons, they go through 4 seasons, but they're outdoors, So, late season hunting for me comes down to, Brady, you touched on it, having the right gear so you can stay warm. And it doesn't matter really whether it's late season or it's archery or whatever. The more time in the woods that you can put, the better your chances are of seeing deer, right? So you're improving your odds the longer that you can stay out there. So hunting gear really matters. But for this guy who doesn't know a whole lot about hunting and stuff, understanding post-rut behaviors, understanding that second rut that does come in, you know, just understanding like deer behavior in general. I think a lot of that tribal knowledge can aid your hunt when you're hunting late season. So I don't know, Buck, thoughts on the topic?
Well, I mean, this year's been odd. It got cold. We don't normally get this cold this early. But once the weather gets cold, them deer like us, man, they want to eat. They got to get the energy in them. They want to stay warm. So, they burn up energy staying warm. So they're going to go to feed. Um, a lot of them, the late season hunting that I've done, a lot of times I don't get to do much because till hunting season, till the archery and then 2 weeks of rifles over, you know, I got to get back to real world responsibilities, as my wife tells me.
Right.
Um, but hunting that food source, the travel corridor between the food source, is key. You touched on it a little bit, that late rut. I know right here in our general area, the second week of our rifle season, there is generally a little bit of rut activity. I mean, historically speaking, if you hunt the second week, there's going to be the bucks are going to be on their feet, moving around because there's a doe or two that's going to come back around.
Right.
You know, for this area, that doesn't happen everywhere. You know, but in this area, that's held true. My nephew shot a real nice buck last year, and it was running a doe. You know, last Friday of the season. The year before, he did the same thing. I mean, he's doubled up 2 years in a row on decent bucks running doe the end of rifle season.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, the buck I took last year on opening day was with doe. It was running doe. So I mean, understanding those type of things
yeah,
really, I
the
think
biggest
those
thing
are
the late
strategic
the,
things.
the biggest thing is you're going back to hunting more like it's archery season.
Yeah.
Food source, travel corridor, bedding area. You know, Pennsylvania rifle. The first week of rifle season, all bets are off. I mean, just walk in the woods and sit down somewhere where you can see good. But late season, now that the we'll call them the fair weather hunters or whatever you want to call them, the guys that hunt their one day a year and then call it a day, they're out. They're not in the woods anymore, so it's calming back down. The deer are getting back closer to normal, and you know, so you got to start using the knowledge you think you have about what a deer is going to do.
Different tactics.
Yeah. Yep.
There were hardly any shots yesterday. You know, I there just didn't seem like that many hunters in the woods,
Yeah, I
on
was
the
surprised too.
second
Like,
Saturday.
I told you I was expecting to see some orange where we were at hunting public land, and
Mhm.
there was like nobody out there. Like when we left, there was basically no trucks in the woods. My dad drove around with my grandfather a little bit to, work with him and give him a hunt. And they said they might have saw 2 or 3 trucks along the side of the road. So yeah, I don't know. It's like New Year's resolutioners, like our hunting season. Like people will get out opening day and then they kind of fall off. It's not they don't bleed it like we do. They're not like us, but
Well, I wasn't in the woods yesterday, Brady, so I got to admit I wasn't there.
maybe that's why we didn't hear any gunshots.
I was in the butcher shop trying to clean up, from the first week. So
Yeah, it's hard when you gotta go back to work and, you got a butcher shop full of, meat to process.
it's
Right.
it, you know it's great to have them kills and the harvest, but when you process it yourself, some of your hunting time becomes processing time.
Yeah.
So. That's
I
kind of where
mean,
I was at yesterday. And I wanted to go out, but at the same time, I was like, yeah, I got to get this stuff done. If we don't get it done, no one else is going to do it.
yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Do you get help from the kids, or is it mostly on your shoulders?
they help trim out. He'll help somewhat. I keep keep trying to tell them, hey, Dad's not going to be here to do this forever. At some point, you're going to have to know.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to teach them, trying to get them to understand, the parts of the deer, what we're doing with every part, how we're doing it. I still don't let them cut every piece, but um, at least that they have a general understanding. They do fairly well with it, but like through the week here, they're involved in so many different things going on that Dad starts on it, but the rest of the help doesn't show up till 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then it's like, well, we need to start cleaning up because it's going to be time to go for showers and go to bed soon. And
right.
you know, yesterday they were in the butcher shop most all day. But we did a pig yesterday too to get pork to mix with our meat for our snack sticks and stuff. So
It's kinda
uh,
early. I mean, yeah, early in the year to get your pig going, but, I guess if you want that
well,
pork
I need
for
the
your
pork fat
venison.
for I need my pork fat for my snack stick mixes, and we did 2 batches of them, and I mean, there's still I have a bunch of deer trimmings in the freezer that we didn't even thaw out for this go around.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, we
when I,
usually, wait until the new year to hit our pork, but we'll be in the butcher shop here in a month or so, especially now that it's cold. I mean, it's definitely, the time it is getting to be the time of year to do that.
well, Lonnie actually stopped while I was picking mine up and was discussing when he's going to be getting his. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
asked him about that, the other day, so sometimes you gotta motivate one another.
I just get a
Yeah.
text and I'm there. But you touched on the kids kind of learning the ropes and the tricks. I'm sure they learn more as they get older and more years. How's Mason doing with field dressing? Because personally, I don't know, maybe it's all of us, but you can probably remember back when we drove, like, that's probably when my dad first gave me exposure, but it's basically I would start and not want to get in the guts and kind of give up. And then finally I was brave and I cut a lot of guts open. I still cut a lot of guts open, but the more exposure, the better off you get. So I don't know how he does or he
Well,
passes.
he doesn't do well with that, and neither do my daughters. And part of that though is I think that's part of the reason they like hunting close home because we don't generally field dress them anymore when we're close home, especially especially when we're stand hunting. If we shoot a deer, it goes on the truck, it goes to the butcher shop, and we just gut it while it's hanging. You know,
It's
so
nicer that way.
once it's in the shop, then Dad's there anyway. So
Right.
Yeah,
they don't. I still try and I've still tried to teach them and expose them to, hey, this is what's got to happen. Like, there's going to come a time where Dad's not going to be there. You know, you're going to
I
have to
remember
do this.
I remember one I nicked like so bad. We were in low balls field, and needless to say, that deer went swimming in the creek to get a quick bath before we went on the truck.
Yeah.
it
Hey, I seen
happens.
my father-in-law nicked him this year in the butcher shop. I watched him, take a bath. I mean, it sprayed him, and I wouldn't even want to put a number on how many deer that man's taking the guts out of. So it happens to the best of us, Brady.
Right.
That's for sure. No one's above it. It's gonna happen.
So while we're on the subject of your post harvest, you get that deer, we have a little bit of success. For those people that are listening, what would be the practical advice that you would want to give them on field dressing, processing game meat, and storing it for freshness?
Just having a good mentor, like for me, doesn't matter what I'm learning about. Number one, the more you do it, the better you get at. And then number two is how I learn is, all right, show me. And the
Mhm.
next time, like, let me start knowing I'm not going to get the whole thing done. And you're going to be there to, coach me through what I forgot or what step I missed, and then third time is let me try it on my own, and then we can repeat back to step two if we need to. But just having those eyeballs there, and as for you get in the butcher shop, especially self-processing, I think it's a strong skill everybody should know about, or at least understand where your meat comes from. But yeah, like just good mentors, learn from others. There's plenty of people out here that do it. It's been centuries or millenniums. People's been cutting meat off bones. So find that right person that fits your learning style. Go to their butcher shop, help them out. That's the best way. I
Right.
don't know. Someone comes into my butcher shop, yeah, grab a knife. I'm not going to discriminate. Come on in. So yeah, find a good mentor. They'll that can teach you through the ropes, and then all you need to buy is one of them hooks to hang the deer up, and basically a table and a knife, and then you got everything you need.
Good sharp knife. Yeah.
Yep, they're hard
Well,
to come by.
so Buck, you sounds like you do it a little bit differently than us, because I'm dressing the deer out in the field.
You
And
still do some of that, but
well, here's what I want to get at is, I want from your perspective, like, what do you do to like ensure? And I'm thinking of the person that's listening that doesn't know, right? What are the tips that you would want to share with the listener that doesn't know any different? The importance of keeping that meat fresh, not letting it sit. Like the deer that I killed on opening day treated completely different than the deer that I killed on the opening day of rifle season versus the opening day of archery season, you
right?
know?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is know your time frames. If you're killing that deer and you know that you got a mile and a half drag, you don't want to drag it with the guts in it. Number one, that's weight you can lose, make your drag easier, so you're not,
It's true.
you're not thinking this is the end for you when you're climbing that mountain. So weight reduction, and so if you got a mile drag, yeah, you're gonna want to gut it. If you're hunting farm ground, and the skinning shack's right across the field, and you can pick it up with the truck or the side by side, go ahead and gut it on the hook. It is easier doing it standing up on the hook than it is on your knees, standing on your head in the field. You
Yep.
know, you know, but my biggest thing is when you're gutting it, if you're gonna gut it in the field, anything that doesn't look like you want to eat it, get it out of there, and keep it clean. You know, don't cut it open any bigger than you have to get the guts out of it. Otherwise, you're dragging leaves and dirt and whatever else into that chest cavity. I've seen it plenty of times where you know I'm I've done it so many deer. I look at that kind of stuff. A guy will be showing you his kill. Hey, you want to see my buck? Yeah. And then you're looking at where they gutted it, and it's like, man, that thing's full of dirt.
Mhm.
This guy's cut half the hair off the belly sometimes, because they're worried more about the hair than they are dirt getting stuff in there. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I think that keeping it clean is the biggest thing, and keeping it fresh,
Brady
so
Brady hit on that though. The mentor is the biggest thing. I mean, we can I can tell you 100 times. It's easier to show you once, at least for me anyway. I
Yeah.
mean, I could try and walk you through it over the phone or over a FaceTime call, but to be there in person and be like, cut it here, pull this out, cut this out, watch this, don't cut that
don't
part,
cut that. Yeah.
don't cut that. And if you talk to 50 people, you're going to get 40 different stories about how you should do it. You know, I've
Everyone's
hunted
an
with
expert.
I've hunted with enough guys that they all do it different, and it's you can learn something. You can learn something from anybody. And when the day you think you know it all and there's nothing left to learn, man, you're in sad shape because you know every time I'm around somebody, I pick something up, or
Yeah, like
realize, well, that's why we do it this way and not that way. Okay, you know. Sometimes you're just reassuring yourself as to the method you use, and sometimes you're taking back a step and saying, well, that might just work. you know.
Said it a million times here on this podcast, but there's always somebody out there that knows something that you don't know. And nature's a classroom. So
Yeah,
every day you can get that lesson, and that's so true. So I mean, for me, it's like just keeping the meat fresh. That deer. A lot of times, if you get your deer and you can get it cleaned out into the meat pole or to wherever it is you're gonna skin it and stuff. Like let that deer cool, get some air flowing, and crack open that once you're done dragging it, you want to crack it open so that it can breathe and cool down, because skinning a deer is a lot easier on that cool temperature once the meat cools down than versus if you try to do it right away. So we usually let it hang for a day before skinning it out, and getting that meat processed to refrigeration in due time as well. Because there's nothing, like I said, on the open day archery, it was probably 55, 60 degrees out, sunny, beautiful day. So the doe that I took on the opening day archery, I had to get that thing cleaned, and there was no letting it hang up overnight. You had to get it field dressed, get it quartered out, skinned out, and meat into the
right.
refrigerator. Didn't have that problem with our deer on opening day of rifle. In fact, we let them sit overnight and then tried to skin them the next day, and hide was froze to the meat. So completely different situations. So understanding your situation uh, is going to impact your approach as well.
Right.
So what's your like how do you what's your go-to? Because I mean, first thing, now that I got fresh meat, like my go-to meal is gonna be, uh, steak with my eggs in the morning. You know, I'll cut up some of those tenderloin, some of that back strap, and it's steak and eggs for breakfast. But
Well, my go-to breakfast is the canned deer meat. We can a lot of the hind quarter. So when I process a hind quarter, I'll pull the roast out of it, trim them up clean them up, get all the silver skin and the fat off of them, and then I'll
mhm.
cube them up into, you know, quarter size cubes or something like that, and then can it. And that's my go-to breakfast. Canned deer meat and eggs. It's hard to beat.
Canned hind quarter, like it.
Yep.
Put it on
Yeah.
the recipe book. I like
I just did. Let me think here. We just did 2 canners full. I forget how many jars it was last night, but that was one of the things out of these deer we cubed up, and Emily was canning them last night. So, but she did two canners full of them.
You have a preference on how you prepare it?
As far as like after I take it out of the jar now.
Yeah, when it goes into the pan or the crock pot, or yeah.
Well, no, I mean the canned meat. I just cook it right on the frying pan with eggs. I mean, if technically it's already cooked, you could eat it out of that jar. I just like to
Yep.
warm it up a little bit with the eggs and go to it.
No seasonings, not
Well, I season it. I put some black pepper and some garlic in when we can it.
season the taste.
okay, there you go. That's what I'm getting at, like the trade secrets here of
Well, I
Brady
I I I put a little garlic and black pepper in each jar.
gives it a
You
little
know,
flavor,
gives it a little, and obviously you can it and it's in there, so that flavor just soaks in there, and
marinates.
and then when I'm cooking my eggs, when I cook my eggs with it, I just season it like I would my eggs. Put a little salt, a little pepper on there. You know, I like hot sauce on my eggs, so a lot of times I'll put some hot sauce on it when I'm eating it then, and you know,
Brady, what about you? Like, how do you like to prepare your meal?
I'm less of a breakfast guy. I'm more like a dinner guy. So I mean, pretty common, but just give me them back straps, butterfly them, throw a little garlic, butter, salt, pepper. That's all you need, and maybe a little steak seasoning. Then just your mushrooms, your onions, your peppers. Just stir it up and serve it with some rice. Is a delicacy in our house. I do think that it's interesting. I don't know how you are, Buck, but Ron, as soon as we get that deer down, like he's having back straps for breakfast. I'm like, I got this deer, like I want to, get meat in the freezer, and like I'm not in a rush to get to it. Like it's like I know it's there, it's in my reserves, but I don't know, like how quickly are you putting that canned deer
Well,
in the pan?
the canned deer meat it'll set for a while. I mean, the backstraps are getting eaten first.
I know
You
there's
know,
a story of you guys in the butcher shop
oh
eating
yeah,
quickly.
we had one of those this year too because we were trying to process deer this week. After coming home after work and between running kids and sporting events, trying to process deer. There was a night this week where before while we were cutting them, the kids were cooking them right up there on the skillet in the
You got
butcher
to eat.
shop. Yeah, yeah,
Got to fuel the machine.
yeah. But to that backstrap, I'm learning things about deer processing every day too. And, I've got deeper into it now, and I learned from some of the same guys you learned from, Ron, and obviously
Hmm.
Brady's learning too. Some of the same guys, but I've went my own way a little bit and taken it a little farther, and I found some cuts in them hindquarters that will rival the that backstrap.
Hmm.
You know, you get a deer sometime I'm around, I'll show you where to get it out of there, get that sirloin tip out of that hind quarter. And I cooked one. I had my wife cook one this week when we were in the butcher shop some evening, and she's like, "What's that? That doesn't even look like." I'm like, "Just cook it."
Yep.
So she cooked it up while she was doing the back straps, and I was like, "Hey, is there any of that? Where's that at?" And she's like, "Well, it was good."
Yeah.
Wait,
It's gone.
wait, what do you mean? She goes, "No, I saved you one piece, but yeah, you were right. It's really good." So
Yeah.
I've
that's
got,
that's the thing. Learning the deer parts too, because you can have a good mentor, but if the mentor don't, if I mentor you, you're only going to know what I know
right.
unless you take upon yourself to try and learn more. And you know,
Well, at the end of the day, we're out, hunting deer, we're taking an animal, but if you're not utilizing that animal, if you're not cooking it, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many people out there that, look, everybody processes their meat, whether they take it to the butcher or they do it themselves. Everybody does it how they do it. But there's so many people out there that I know, they don't want to eat venison because it doesn't taste good, or it doesn't have flavor. And
well, a lot.
everything has to do with how it's prepared. And when I say prepared, that's not just in the frying pan or the crock pot. That's how you process that meat.
Right.
Everything matters,
Yep.
Yep.
and it affects the flavor of the deer. And so
Yeah.
that's why we do it. Go ahead.
And the thing a lot of people don't understand at first, and some people will argue with you until they're blue in the face, is I'll let the fat on there. Fat's flavor. Not in wild game. Fat is not
Mhm.
flavor. Wild animals process their food different than domesticated animals such as a steer or a pig, So the fat on a deer is not the same as the fat on a hog or the fat on a steer.
Correct.
You want to get that white fat. You want all that gone as you can.
It will
You know,
affect the flavor, but
you know,
not positively.
not positively. And the same with the silver skin. A lot, and if you slow cook everything, the silver skin's not as big a deal.
Mhm.
If you're smoking everything or crock pot and everything, silver skin, it's still not ideal, but it's not near it doesn't have near the negative effect on the meat that it does if you're trying to fry and pan cook it. And if you want to cook a steak in a frying pan, you need to get rid of it all. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
so
very
it's
particular. I'm very
yep,
particular when cutting up. I mean, whether it's steaks, whether it's roasts, whether it's going to be ground into burger. Like, I'm super particular about getting as much of that silver skin out, and removing the tendons and all of
yeah.
those things.
Sometimes when you look at the pile, you're like, man, are we being wasteful? But at the same time, you're to me, I remind myself, well, I'm not that's not really being wasteful because if we don't take that out, no one's gonna want to eat this stuff. And then we will become wasteful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
if you
father,
hang around Brady long enough, the dog will help.
yeah, yeah. She was trying to pull a hind quarter off the table. when we weren't looking, but we caught her. But I think too, kind of like you touched on, Buck. Like if you wouldn't eat it, don't mix it in with what you're grinding.
Yeah.
We'll throw
Yeah,
it in.
I tell my kids that all the time. That's the number one learning tool in the butcher shop is if you wouldn't put that in your mouth, don't put it in that don't put it in that container over there that's gonna get ground into
Hmm.
whatever or the steak bin,
Yeah.
The kids don't get to mess too much with the steak part yet, but
I think that it's one of those things because, I mean, you talk about how busy we are, and you got to get that thing cleaned up and processed, and you're trying to do it through the week. You're back to work or whatever. It's sometimes when you're in the butcher shop, you just want to get done. Like I don't know if you guys ever feel like that. It's like, man, the
yeah,
work really started, and you want to get done, but as much as I want to get complete with the project, I'm still like super particular. Like I'm quality control. Like you might cut that meat and put it on a pile, and I'm going to grab that piece of meat that you just cut, and I'm going to try to trim it up just a little bit more
mm,
because it all goes into impact. Personally, for me, when I'm preparing, specifically, my butterfly steaks or anything like that, I'm patting that down in oil. Like I use a good high quality olive oil, and then just straight some Montreal steak seasoning, some salt and pepper. Like you don't have to do much. You know, Brady was saying about onions and mushrooms and all that. Like that's great for like a dinner meal. But when I'm doing breakfast, just coat that thing in oil, get some Montreal steak on it, sear both sides. You want your steaks rare. I want them still bleeding, and they melt in your mouth, and it's a good way to start the day.
It's the thing with wild game and especially deer is, there's not much fat as we touched on. You trim it off, so it's really easy to overcook it, and then it's like you're chewing on a dog toy. Just so
yes,
Why a lot of people don't like it.
better to undercook it than overcook it. Go more on the medium rare side than overcooking it.
for sure, for sure. I have that struggle with my children. My daughters, they won't cook deer steak because they're always like, we're not going to screw that up. We're not even going to try, Dad. You just get home here and you cook it. It won't take that long. So, it's a learned thing.
Hmm.
You know, like we've talked about even before. Ron and I've cooked a few butterflies on a frying pan. We know a thing or two about cooking deer steak.
Been there,
Learning
done
up.
that.
Yeah,
Well, guys, this has been good. I wanted to sort of wrap the show up by talking about, we talk about family, we talk about how we incorporate our families into, doing the things that when it comes to taking care of the deer and stuff. I know like, my wife, she's very understanding this time of year because she didn't grow up in a family that hunts, but she has married into a family that we we eat, sleep, breathe, bleed hunting. Um, and it's the holiday season too. We're into December. It's going to be Christmas here before you know it. How I want to talk about balancing that hunting and family time during the holidays as we wrap up our seasons. We put everything that we can. We leave it all on the field, so to say. Whenever we go out there, but you got to have leftover for whenever you come home to do the family thing too. And there's a balancing act there for healthy lifestyle. So, what are your thoughts on that, Brady? I know that you're sort of you know you got the Christmas tree up in the background. I've got to do that later today. It's we're recording here today, but afterwards, like got to get the house ready to go and make time to do that sort of stuff. So, what are your thoughts on that? And any advice for those out there listening?
Yeah, so incorporating your family is a big thing. So my girlfriend doesn't hunt. She didn't really be raised in a hunting family, but I
Hmm.
think what's really important, like this is all new for her. It's tough times. We spend a lot of time together, and then I'm going away all of November every weekend. When she was looking at the calendar, she's like, "You're not going to be around for November." I'm like, "Yeah, it's the rut and your rifle, but
she's a
just
hunting widow.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, she feels like it, but just weighing out time together, like ultimately just knowing the importance of Sundays and just planning stuff out to do. I think it's important no matter what the hobby is or what you're doing to try to incorporate, your significant other. So like I offer her to come out and sit. Now deer hunting isn't her thing. I think eventually I'll get her to spend a afternoon with me or a sit, but it's just pretty darn cold to be out there. So I think that's an archery task, but ultimately tying in your significant other, like including them, like knowing when you're gone for a while, like coming back to the house with fresh energy that you're ready to tackle the day, whether it's taking the trash out or going grocery shopping, just coming with a positive attitude and awake and alert and attentive. Like that's the biggest thing. You can't come back home and be on your phone and shower and go to bed. You need to spend some quality time, some quality hours together, and really still connect and grow, especially spending all this time apart.
I think that's really good. Is you say come back with energy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, look, last night, yesterday we hunted all day long. It wasn't as cold as opening day, but I mean, it was cold. I was cold till the end of the day, right? And sat all day long, didn't see any deer. Kind of, all hunts are good hunts, but it was kind of like to the end of the day, like, man, I just want to get my feet warmed up, get some feeling back in the tip of my nose, type of deal. But we had family stuff going on, and as much as I wanted to go home and get a hot shower, like, I went to a birthday party dressed in camouflage and my fluorescent orange hat, and you show up for the people that you love, and you gotta make time and come with a little bit of energy. So that's really good, Brady. How
Yeah.
about you, Matt? Because your family hunts with you, so it's a
So I
little
have
different.
I have the 100%, 180 degrees different than both of you guys.
Right.
My wife was raised hunting, so she understands the whole process and the whole, it's hunting season and nothing else matters kind of thing. So, the family's with me while I'm hunting. The kids are all into it. So,
Makes it
we
easy.
spend that time in the field together. My daughter's in the tree stand with me, and my other daughter's in the woods with my wife. Mason's out doing his thing because he's a 16-year-old boy. We were all 16-year-old boys. He's doing his thing. You
Yeah.
know, family time isn't necessarily his number one priority, regardless at this point in his life. But we spend the time in the field. We spend the time in the butcher shop. You know, the kids all have. They all help. They all know their job, their role. You know, to make it work. And just like yesterday, we were discussing, hey, we got to get through this, and then we'll go do some other things.
Hmm.
I think a big thing is just being present where your feet are, no matter what it is.
Exactly.
Where you're at, be there physically, be there mentally, be there emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're in the butcher shop, for me, my kids are there, so you guys know the butcher shop banner and stuff. So it's a good time with the kids.
Mhm.
You know.
If you're out there watching and you don't process your own, it's one thing when you got to do it yourself. Because I've had to butcher deer on my own, when else is around to help, and that's not the funnest. But when you got, it's like Brady started, the episode talking about a hunting buddy. When you got a hunting buddy or a hunting partner or a group of people, that whether it's making the fire to get the cabin warm or whether it's that time in the butcher shop, working the knives, it a lot of memories are made in the butcher shop, and it's work, but it's just as much fun. Whenever I'm out in the stand or I'm out in the field, it's me and my thoughts,
Right.
but when we're back in the butcher shop, there's that interactive piece and the storytelling, and we're making memories doing that too. So it's important.
I was about to say, just work isn't work when you have a buddy and you're laughing and giving each other crap along the way. So
Yeah.
just having that atmosphere, makes
Yep.
the butchering go a lot quicker.
For sure.
Well, I think that's a good way to wrap it, guys. I appreciate you all taking a few minutes. I know Buck's got some snack sticks. He's got to check on the smoker
Yeah.
here in a little
Yeah.
bit.
The next alarm's going to go off here in a couple minutes to go out here and bump the temperature again. So we got some new stuff in the smoker this year. We're trying some new recipes, some new concoctions. To me, I mean,
Well,
there's other people. So
Trial and error. It's the only way we
that's
get
right.
better.
if it's
You
not
know,
good, just don't
repetition.
eat it.
Right.
Hey,
Somebody will.
what I've learned is if it doesn't turn out good, the catfish love it.
All right,
There you go.
So,
All right, fellas. Well, yeah, Buck's got some smoke sticks, snack sticks to get to. Brady, I don't know what you're tearing into. I got a Christmas tree to put up.
We're Christmas shopping.
It's that time of year. Family hunting balance.
Yeah. So while you guys enjoy the holiday festive stuff, my hunting family, we're going to shoot our bows this afternoon because that's what my daughters want to do. So
love it.
I said we can put a Christmas tree up or we can shoot our tree. We're shooting our tree. There you go.
Do it, man. They're only young once. So
That's
whatever
right.
they want. Well, listen, guys, appreciate you hopping on here, Hunting Family. Thanks for tuning in. You can find us on socials at Menser Outdoors, at Tracks and Tackle. Give us a like, share, follow, drop us a comment. And as always, we want you to just remember to stay wild and keep hunting. We'll talk to you next time.